So the second trailer for Trolls 3 has been out for a little while now, and it's interesting because lots of things were revealed, of course. Or okay, I say that lightly because if many of us probably had early access to like the trailer. If you've seen like the Barbie movie, there's like a theatrical trailer that's kind of similar to the one that we got recently. It's a little bit different if you compare them side by side, but like similar things were revealed. There were certain things that we weren't supposed to talk about yet until like we were absolutely certain when like DreamWorks like put the actual trailer like front and center for everybody to see, and they finally did recently. And the stuff that's been revealed was a lot. One of those being Viva, and for context, Viva is Poppy's long lost sister, and she's been an interesting character as of late because she's been hinted at forever. She was like one of the first things that we saw of like from like any like leaks from like Trolls 3, like even before the first trailer even came out. So she was just an overall interesting character, and we were like, we couldn't wait to see more. So yeah, Viva's pretty interesting. And now that it's out, and from what we can see from the trailer, we can pull some stuff about Viva, even though it's very small of what we can see from Viva. But recently a fellow troll fan, Force Spector, made his own video about like his perspective on Viva, both on a merchandise standpoint and how like she affects the overall franchise. Like Viva was actually kind of a smart move, and I feel like I agree with some of the points in his video. And like seriously, go watch this video before you watch this video, so that you can at least have some context before I put in my own sense as we go analyze that together. But it's just, in my opinion, I feel like there's other things that we could talk about with Viva, and we're going to be talking about my perspective of Viva in this video. But I feel like bringing up Spector's video just because like I feel like lots of points that I wanted to make, he already pointed out, so I'm like, might as well just like say that like I got some of these points from Spector, and like because he does bring interesting points in the video. So yeah, today we're gonna be talking about Viva, and just my perspective on Viva and like the overall franchise. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so before we start on the video and like my whole commentary on it, might as well like give my general sense of like what I stand with Viva. So like in terms of Viva as just Viva, I feel like she's pretty cool. Like I like her design, and I especially love her hair. I feel like her hair is like the thing about her that makes her the most stand out. Because like I like how like crazy it is, and it's just really unique, so it really makes her stand out. And like the fact that she's voiced by Camila Cabello, that's pretty cool. And also I like the fact that even though I'm going to talk about more about this later on in the video, the fact that like she's like the idea of like her and like Poppy being sisters, and like they're gonna have that dynamic in the movie. It's gonna be pretty cool, especially because like just the idea of like Poppy like just talking to someone that's like kind of like her in terms of like her personality, and like she's just as like bubbly and outgoing as her. I feel like it's going to bring some really chaotic moments, which I mean that in the best way possible, but like super chaotic sisterly dynamic moments. So I feel like the idea is cute. So yeah, in terms of that, she's cool. But in terms of like her character and like what she brings to the overall franchise, I'll admit I have a little bit of critiques. But that's all I gotta say right now. I have critiques of Viva going forward. Now, not in terms of critiques, what I mean by that is that like it's not like how she is as an actual character. Like we don't know that yet. I mean, like the movie hasn't came out yet. I could just like, it's just what she represents in like the whole entire franchise. Like I have a few critiques. We'll get into that, and I'll explain about that whole thing later. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Viva. So we're going to be commenting on like Spector's video and like see where I agree, where I have some stuff to talk about with my own input and all that stuff. So yeah, let's get started.
Okay, finally the Trolls Band Together trailer is out, and I could finally talk about Viva properly. Let's start off from a merchandising perspective, and then we'll move on to the media itself.
Okay, so by the way, he's saying that like he's going to talk about Viva in like a merchandising and like media perspective. So like just for context, I don't know too much about merchandising. I just have like mostly opinions and thoughts about it. Like I know like the basics of like how merchandising works, particularly in like the Trolls franchise itself. So, but like, I just mostly have opinions and thoughts about it. So like, just let you all know. And like, I mean, my channel mostly focuses on like media anyways, and like Spector's channel is like kind of a mix of both. But like, I'll just put in what I know. And correct me about any time that I do make a mistake on merchandising in the comments. So yeah, I'll gladly read them and I'll take them to consideration.
I'll say this. I'm really honestly all for if the merchandising of Trolls is easier for merchandising companies going forward. In terms of merchandising of the brand and Poppy's go-to main girl character that isn't Poppy, she's typically beside DJ Suki, but that ended very quickly once the World Tour era started. Then it was Barb. Once World Tour was done, Barb got booted out. Trollstopia, Val and Holly. Once that was done, they were booted out. Now we're... I don't mean booted out in the mean way, but you get what I mean.
Okay, so like, he brings this up, and I feel like this kind of like brings like the pros and cons to Viva in this situation. So like, this is basically like my first critique of Viva. So like, the pros to this is that like, I get it on like a merchandising standpoint. Like Viva is kind of like needed in a way, and what I mean by that is that like, like throughout the entire franchise, they add more characters, especially like girl characters, to be paired up with Poppy. Like like he says in the first movie, they had like DJ Suki. Then in World Tour, they had Barb, and then everything in between, like between World Tour and Trolls Band Together, they have like Trollstopia and what's it called, Holiday and Harmony. They had Holly and Val, so they played into that as well. And now going into Trolls 3, we have Viva, and I get like adding more girl characters in like the sense of like bringing more variety to the table of like more opportunities for merchandising and like what characters put on like merchandising that are going to be paired up with Poppy. Like I get it on that point, but the cons to this is like in terms of like what he calls it, the media itself. So like in terms of the media, I've always had like a problem with the fact that within each movie, like they keep adding more characters that don't even play a part at all, or like in some cases, like Barb, she does play a part, but like kind of forgotten like after the fact. So like, and for like the first movie, they had DJ Suki, and she didn't do much in the first movie at all. She's just kind of there, and she barely had any lines, and she kind of disappeared after that, unless if you watched Beat Goes On. And then they had Barb, and like I said, she actually did play a role in the movie, of course. I mean, like a big role. She's like the antagonist in the movie. And then we don't even see her again in like Trolls 3, but we do see her in Holiday and Harmony. But like it's like I don't know how like popular Holiday and Harmony is in like a outside of the fandom, so I don't really know on that point. But in Trolls 3 we don't see her again, and they have Viva now. So like my whole critique on this is that like I don't know if like Viva is probably going to be like another character that's just there, and then by the next movie she's forgotten. Now ironically enough, one of the comments in this very video, uh they said that like they wouldn't be surprised if like Viva were to just like actually be one of the only like characters to like actually appear in like future movies. Like she would actually just stay. And I at the same time I wouldn't be surprised if she actually were to stay. I mean like because like she kind of has like a bigger reason to say. I mean she is Poppy's sister, so like I guess that's like kind of a big reason. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they forgot about her in the very next movie, because like I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of pointless if they just bring more characters only to drop them by the next movie. In terms of media and like merchandising, I kind of get it, but like in terms of like the movies themselves, like it's kind of frustrating, especially because like they always happen to be the characters that I freaking love. Like I freaking love DJ Suki, then they dropped her, then Barb, and they dropped her, and I'm scared that I will love Viva and then they would drop her by the next movie. So yeah, it's just kind of a complicated thing, and it's just Viva just seems like repeated history to me.
And then now we have Band Together, and it's Viva. And here's the thing: Viva is like what DJ Suki used to be, Poppy's go-to character that wasn't Branch. And like right now, like with the 2 video games, like DreamWorks is hyping that girl up. DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing, she's right next to Poppy and Shrek. On the first ever DreamWorks Trolls console game, boom, she's right there in the cover. She's also tagging along during the adventure too as a playable character. This is a big deal, and I've noticed with the merchandise, she's been a huge help for Poppy in terms of merchandising. And I would say it going forward, I'm not gonna complain about Poppy and Viva being the go-to characters being thrown on merchandise. Now, I would like to see other characters, and from what I've seen from the puzzles and other things, they know that. So we're good on that angle. But
so I do actually agree with all that. Like I said, I do get why they put Viva in terms of merchandising. But another point that I feel like would make it especially work, because like, you know, he brings up how like she's really going to help like the merchandising for Poppy, because you know we know that there's both sisters, you know, so they're gonna have like that sisterly dynamic, and I feel like characters like that are extremely marketable. Like I've seen in like other toy franchises where like for example, I don't know if this is a good example, but like Frozen, you know, they have Anna and Elsa, so like they're both sisters, and you know, I feel like that's pretty marketable because like it's like the main like the main head of like the overall like branding for like the franchise. So like in this movie, I feel like, you know, even though like I don't know how much of a big role Viva's going to put in. I mean, like from the trailers, it looks like Brozone, like Branch and like his relationship with Brozone is probably going to be like the biggest part of the movie, which, you know, I'm all for. But you know, since Poppy was always like the main character, like the main focus of the overall franchise, it could like it's still gonna work just as well, because like, you know, they have that sisterly dynamic, and it's like the main character to have that sisterly dynamic with somebody can be extremely marketable in that front. Now he also brings up how like Poppy needs like, you know, like other characters, and like, you know, the company is well aware of that, which, you know, I agree with, because like, you know, this is why they have all those other characters. Like it's just like I don't know if backups is like the right word, but they just have those like just in case. Like they can always like rely on like other characters. I mean, like in World Tour we had like those Troll Barbie hybrid dolls, and DJ Suki like snuck into some merch if I remember. So I wouldn't be surprised if like for, you know, if not Bikosan, Band Together were to have like other characters like Barb and like DJ Suki, the Fashion Twins. Of course the Fashion Twins, like the snack pack will come back forever, but like other characters, like if they just like were to be in like some merge for Band Together, even if like, you know, characters like Barb probably won't play as much as a big role, or like just maybe just like a cameo in this movie, like they can always just use those characters either way.
they are going to have to add more characters that isn't just Poppy and Viva. But again, to make merchandising easier for non-toy companies, I'm fine with this. Plus, at the same time, when nothing's going on with the brand, it's something they can always fall back on. Same with Brozone. So really, if it's a way to keep Trolls merchandising flowing, and, you know, the brand doesn't have to go, oh man, we don't know what to do, these two are the good old reliables they can fall back on. Okay, now that we got the merchandising one out of the way, what about the media itself? Now, I will say this, there is a camp that's just like, but we're in the Branch era of Trolls. We're focusing on Branch. He has his own version of the snack pack that's Brozone. He has something that's actually his and not kind of fallen back of what Poppy has, and then it just kind of relegates to what Branch as well as a character. And in terms of Branch, he really doesn't have that much. That's like dedicated to really him. All he really has is like Gary and now Brozone.
Okay, so this doesn't really count as like a disagreement to what he said, but like it's more like my own thoughts about what he said. So I don't think this has nothing to do with Viva, but like I might as well just like bring this up. So like I've always felt like by now I've already warmed up to Brozone. Like if you were to see like my first video when like the first trailer were to like come out for Band Together, you would know like my biggest critique or like my biggest problem so far was like the fact that Branch didn't even had brothers in the first place. But now that I think about it more, it kind of makes like, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like if you were in like the fandom for that long, like ever since the first movie, you would know like, you know, the very little things that the fandom would like think about. Like, you know, if Branch had a grandma, you know, like he probably has other family, right? And if so, what happened to them? So like thinking about it more, like Branch having brothers doesn't sound so far off, like at all. And so this is why I kind of warmed up to Brozone a bit ever since that video. But I also like he also brings up how like, you know, Brozone is kind of like Branch's snack pack in a way. And like I always found that like kind of like unfortunate. This is kind of like what I had to like say about like the whole thing where like they keep adding more characters to like each franchise, or to not each franchise, to each movie in the franchise. So like I feel like Brozone would be like a kind of like a big like moment in like the entire franchise. I mean, of course, I mean it's like Branch's brothers, like I said. So like but at the same time, you know, like the fact that like, you know, Branch needs this, and like the fact that like, you know, this is his own snack pack, and like it just kind of like shows that like maybe he doesn't need the rest of the snack pack, like the OG snack pack, like, you know, Poppy's friends. And I always found that kind of unfortunate, because like one of the things I did like about B Goes On was like the fact that he did actually started bonding with the snack pack a bit. And I always found those episodes interesting because, you know, it just shows, you know, like, you know, Branch's development. But, you know, they don't really focus on that too much in like later movies. They just like, and now they just made Brozone, so then Branch can have a little more of that development. And, you know, I'm happy that development for his character is there, but at the same time, you know, why not use a snack pack, especially because like, you know, in the first movie, you know, Poppy kept pushing like the whole narrative of like, you know, them being like friends of both Poppy and Branch always denied it, and then like I wanted it for like later on, like Branch to actually warm up. And like we see in the first holiday special, he's like an actual contributor to like the snack pack as a whole. And then B Goes On came around, and he actually had like a little closer bond with them a little bit, is what you can say. And then after that, they don't really contribute as much. I mean, in World Tour, we had like Biggie doing something and Cooper doing something, but like the rest of them, they're kind of like off to the side. And, or I guess Guy Diamond did stuff, but like it's more about Tiny Diamond, which, you know, it's just unfortunate for that front. So, you know, I just found like, you know, like the idea of like Brozone just adds on even more to the idea of like, you know, adding more characters when like you could be using the characters that you had before. And especially because like those characters before could have actually like helped with like stuff like character development and like world building and all that stuff, and for Branch's case, for his own character development. So yeah.
And that's it. Now, I will say this, he also has Prince D and Cooper as shown in Holiday and Harmony.
Oh yeah, so I forgot he mentioned this. Yeah, in Holiday and Harmony, they had that one scene in like his bunker. So I am happy, like little moments like that I'm happy about, where like he actually like talks to like, you know, some of the snack pack members, and like, you know, it's just, I like those little scenes, but still at the same time, like more stuff could have been like added on to that. Like he could have talked a little more to the snack pack. We could have seen more of that in the movies themselves and not just the shows.
So he has a few other things, but not a lot, I would say. And the reason why Poppy has Viva, going back to merchandise real quick, is, well, Poppy would have ended up like Branch in World Tour. It's not a bad thing, but from a merchandising perspective, all Poppy would really have is her 3 outfits, and that's it.
Okay, so I don't really know about that. I mean, like, I don't know, like for the World Tour like merchandising, I feel like that whole year was just extremely complicated, especially because, you know, the world was in lockdown at that time, and like the movie just happened to be like released during that time too, and like the whole thing just like was kind of a mess. And you know, I feel like no matter what, the merchandising in that year was like gonna be a mess anyways. So like, but like, what I do remember is that like I do remember like Branch was kind of handled pretty okay, despite him not really like contributing much in World Tour. And you know, and like, you know, he's like saying like, you know, kind of like Viva needed to be there because like, since, you know, like Branch is sort of the main focus. It looks like he's the main focus in like the new movie. So like Poppy doesn't really have anything to do other than like, you know, like, you know, like in terms of merchandising, you know, she doesn't have anything for her except those like outfits. So like they can like play with those outfits, you know, just like put them on merchandising. Like, you know, you can make some plushies out of those. You can make like, you know, put them on t-shirts. I think they'll look pretty cool. But like, you know, adding Viva, this is why I said like, you know, in terms of merchandising, Viva is like kind of a smart choice, because like, you know, it gives Poppy more variety on her front. So, you know, I keep saying, you know, I get it. I genuinely get it, like why Viva has to exist in terms of merchandising. So then Poppy has more stuff to do. But then again, going back to World Tour, you know, like I wouldn't say Branch was completely like, completely like bad in like terms of merchandising. I mean, like, of course, like, I don't know, Branch was always like the secondary main character, so like I feel like no matter what, he would always have like a lot of sales in terms of his merchandise, especially because like, you know, Poppy's like the head of like the girl merchandise for this franchise, and like Branch is kind of like the head of like the boy merchandise in this franchise. So like no matter what, I feel like, you know, Branch will like always be like the head of like merchandising for like boys, and it's the same with Poppy, and it's especially like the same for Poppy because like, you know, she's like the main character, she's like the head of like the franchise. So like, I don't know, I feel like no matter what, I feel like they would both kind of be in the same place in terms of merchandising. Or I don't know, like I said, I don't know too much about how this works, but like in my head, I feel like since they're both the main characters, no matter what, wouldn't merchandising like be the same for both, despite if Poppy had Viva or not? So I don't know. That's just a genuine question I have.
She needed a little bit more, so I can't blame anyone involved for wanting that.
Yeah, I don't blame them either, but like I said, I feel like no matter what you do, since they're both kind of like the head of the franchise, no matter what you do, like I feel like they would both like have like enough merchandising sales, at least enough.
But at the same time, Poppy needed Viva. Really, Poppy, I can't really say I know what they would be able to do with the character going forward. Really, outside of the staples they've been doing in the TV show, oh, Poppy has queenly duties, she has to do X, Y, and Z for this week's episode. But again, that will grow stale. And at the same time, Trollstopia ran into a big, gigantic issue. When a character had a problem, they always went to her. And, like, for as many episodes that Trollstopia has, I don't want that to become a common occurrence. The thing is, they could keep that idea, but I don't mind it being a Poppy and Viva interpersonal relationship thing.
Okay, first of all, side note, so, you know, I still haven't watched Trollstopia, and I used to find a way to actually watch it, but, like, the channel that I tried to, like, you know, illegally watch it on, I only finished like 3 episodes, and then that channel got like taken down because of copyright issues. So then I just kind of gave up trying to find episodes, and now I lost just all motivation to watch it. So like, I don't know, like seeing these critiques of like fans like talking about like Trollstopia, of like all the problems in Trollstopia and all the pros in Trollstopia, is just kind of funny, because I'm all like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Like, not watching Trollstopia is both like a blessing and a curse. So like, I don't know, I just found it kind of funny how, like, you know, he brings up that like a common problem was like people always went to Poppy if they had problems, even if it's like, you know, kind of unnecessary, and like, you know, there's other trolls you can go to. So I don't know, I just found it kind of funny that it's like an inside thing you all have, but I'm not a part of. It really doesn't hurt my feelings. I think it's funny, if anything. Second of all, you know, like, I don't know, like the idea of Viva, like just like another like queen, like by Poppy's side, just feels like, just kind of, you know, sounds cool to me as well. Like, I don't know, like, you know, the sisterly kind of bond, not only is that interesting, but like the we also seem to forget the fact that, like, you know, since Viva is her sister, she's technically gonna be like a queen too, or like at least a princess. So like, she's gonna like, I guess, like help Poppy in terms of like her queenly duties. So, like, it brings like lots of stories to the table. So this is why Viva can be like interesting going forward. So yeah,
I feel like
cool.
that works a lot better than the Snack Pack and the Trollstopia characters constantly going to Poppy when they have a problem. So I feel like that honestly resolves a problem for Poppy. At the same time, from what the trailers have shown off and TV spots of one line of Viva being completely energetic and happy to meet other people, and Poppy turns to Branch and John and Tiny going, is this how people react when they first meet me? And everyone's like, yeah, that this is how you are. Poppy as a character she's still her like big energetic character, but I feel like it's definitely been toned down a bit simply because the character's growing.
Funnily enough, when he like mentioned that, I don't know why, it just kind of reminds me of like this complete side note, but like this kind of reminds me of like kind of like the plot in Lego Movie 2, spoilers for that movie, where like Emmett kind of meets like a version of himself where like it's like, or I guess this kind of reminds me of like the inverse of that, or like Emmett finds like a version of him where like he's matured and stuff like that. So like, I don't know, I just found that kind of funny. It just kind of like popped into my head when he said that. But like, I don't know, the interesting, like, I do find it interesting, like, you know, like Viva could be like that kind of like foil character, because like I do agree Poppy has matured over the course of the movies, and you know, like that line that he brings up with like, you know, Poppy's just like, is this how I am with like everybody when I meet them, and then and everybody's just like, yeah. It's like, I don't know, I find it kind of funny because it shows like how Poppy has matured, and like Viva can be like that person that kind of reminds Poppy of like who she used to be, and then like, you know, like just like reflect on that. I don't know, it could bring up some interesting character moments for her.
She's been growing ever since after the first film. Poppy maturing a bit, but having a character that was kind of like Poppy at the beginning of the franchise, and being a lot more wilder and crazy. I like that detail with her hair being wild and crazy. This works.
I like how we noticed that, because like I didn't notice that before. I just found that like aesthetically pleasing, I guess. But like he mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So like I actually do like, I do agree more with like the fact that like, you know, maybe she's just like Poppy, but like a different font, or like the font that she used to be, you know, before like she like grew as a person.
Idea works. But not only that, but outside of Band Together, it allows Poppy and Viva to have a relationship that can span a long time. There can be a lot of plots dedicated to it. Not only that, but Viva allows to see a new perspective into this franchise. Not to mention, if you're a newcomer to the franchise, Viva's a good surrogate if you join this fandom late. And Viva can introduce old concepts in a new light. So, really, Viva was really needed for this franchise to continue. And not only that, but for Poppy to not become stale.
Okay, so that was the end of that video. So I had a lot more to say than I originally anticipated. Especially because, you know, like I said in the beginning of the video, I feel like Spector does bring up some good points that I actually didn't take into consideration before the video. But now that he brings them up, I see Viva more in a different light. Like, I do get why she's necessary within these movies. Like, we keep saying in, like, the entire, like, video. Like, you know, in terms of merchandise, she makes sense for like, Poppy's half of the brand. Like, Poppy just needs that other variety besides other characters beforehand. And even though I do feel like even with this, without Viva existing, I feel like Poppy would still have a good chance in like her own merch and like how she can contribute to the merch. It's going to be the same no matter what, just because she's the main character. She's like not only the main character, but like the head of the brand, because like, I mean, it's Troll. She's like the head, she's like the head of the brand. So I feel like no matter what, I feel like she would be okay, no, even without Viva. But despite that, I understand why Viva exists. Like, give her like more stuff to do. So then this is why Viva is put there, and especially because of the whole sisterly bond that could be especially marketable for Poppy. But in terms of like the movies themselves, that's where I have critiques. First of all, same thing that I had with Brozone, you know, like it just came out of nowhere. Like I said earlier in the video, I warmed up to Brozone, so I don't really have a problem anymore with Branch having brothers all of a sudden. But then all of a sudden for Poppy to have a sister, that's where I kind of have a problem, because timeline issues. And I feel like DreamWorks is aware of that themselves, because the line in the trailer, Tiny Diamond says the following:
"Is your dad King Peppy?"
Yeah?
Poppy, I'm your sister.
My what?
Whoa. Hey man, am I the only one without a long lost sibling?
So I feel like they're kind of aware of that, but and like at the same time, you know, another fact is just like Viva, like what she brings to the table as a whole, kind of just brings like the same problem that I have, just repeated history with all previous characters that I had had problems with in other movies. You know, with DJ Suki just disappearing, she's just being in that one movie and they just not do anything with her. Then like, and also Spector forgot to mention this, Legsley, he has brought up Legsley in past videos of his, and as much as I respect that, like, you know, he has like this appreciation for Legsley, I personally feel like, you know, it's I have a different opinion. Like, Legsley is exactly what they did with DJ Suki. Like, Legsley's just there, and I don't even know if she even like succeeded in merchandise. She's just kind of there, and they don't even do much with her. Sometimes I even forget Legsley is even a character sometimes. And that's the thing that's kind of bothered me. Like, DreamWorks just has these characters that they had kind of like some potential with, but then they just throw them off by the next movie. And that's especially sad because, like I said, most of these characters I do like, especially Queen Barb, and they don't bring her back from the looks of it in the trailers, and I'm kind of sad about that. But in terms of Viva herself, I'm down for it. Like, she seems sweet, she seems cool, and let's just hope I don't like her that much, because I'm gonna be really sad by the next movie if they do decide to drop her like they did with everybody else that I liked, and then I just become sad for the rest of my life and ask DreamWorks as to why they're doing this to me. So anyways, that was the end of that video. If you haven't heard me say it before, check out Spector's video that I just reacted to. You can learn a lot from this Pink Fox boy, and check out his channel in general. It's a very cool channel, and thanks to him for letting me respond to his video and, like, you know, give my own perspective on Viva. And speaking of which, tell me your guys' perspective on Viva. Do you agree with my points, or Spector's, or both, or neither's? Tell me in the comments below. I would gladly read them, and I just really like to just have a conversation about Viva. So anyways, this is the Winged Unicorn, and I'm about to fly away. See you guys in the next video, and I promise this time it's Generation 5. I promise you guys this is the last time. If I don't, the next video, if it's not about that, I don't know, I'll probably, like, eat my foot or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, love you guys. Bye.